This is a Hot Pie Original.
So this past weekend put the Jerry Jones, Jimmy Johnson weird divorce back into the spotlight. Jimmy Johnson entered the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And so the whole story was stirred up again. And then the two of them have had this public love affair all weekend long. Forget that. Forget the dramatic part. Forget the fact that the Cowboys have not won a championship, not even come close, for more than 25 years. I mean, this is fascinating on a number of levels. The correlation between winning and value, well, there doesn't seem to be much of a correlation between winning and value. This is about the franchise. This is about Jerry Jones' investment. And it's been beyond spectacular for a few reasons. But it's, most people would say, I don't get it. How can that be? There's a few parts to this. One, it's really not about winning. Clearly. University of Texas football program is proof of that. Sells more, makes more than practically one of the top two or three, if not the top, of any program in the country. And it's very similar to the Dallas Cowboys. They are, by winning and losing, by championship measurements, pretty mediocre franchises. Yet they are the most valuable by far. Then the other part is pretty interesting just because I remember this. I remember the old talk radio, Billy Joe, Freddie Joe, Frida Joe calling from Llano saying post Colin Kaepernick kneeling. And any kneeling that took place, that's it. Pro football is going to die. No one's going to watch anymore. It was the talk radio topic of the day, the rage of the day. And I unsuccessfully would argue with people. You do know, I'll predict to you right now, that business will be bigger and better than ever. F you was the standard response. Die, that kind of stuff. I'm pretty sure kneeling doesn't matter. I'll bet you that business is bigger than ever. Well, guess what? The business is bigger than ever. I'm not saying that as individuals, some of you may have a problem with the kneeling, but as a business, it didn't matter. In fact, I could argue that it was better for business. Either way, business is great. Jerry Jones buys a franchise, $140 million or $150. I'll have to look it up again. He fired, I would say, my argument, this is a nerdy subject, but the most brilliant, I think, football mind the game had ever known, Tom Landry. I think Tom Landry is the most innovative and impactful, certainly coach, but I think maybe an all of football person the game has ever known. Most of what you see today were innovations, football innovations by Tom Landry. The smartest football brain I think that's ever existed. I don't know how to argue that against Lombardi. I don't know exactly how to argue that against Belichick, except that this was the game's greatest innovator. So he fires him. That's the story. How about this? How good of an investment was this? I'm now looking at the Forbes list of the world's most valuable sports franchises. In 1989, he paid $150 million. The team had operating profits in 2019. And I'll tell you what's really going to be amazing is you'll see during a pandemic year, the profits weren't that off. The team delivered operating profits of $425 million on revenue of $980 million. Both record results for the franchise in 2019. The Forbes list of the most valuable sports franchises on the planet, the top 50 of them, includes 26 NFL franchises. Basketball has 9, soccer 9, and baseball 6. The NFL, this is why I tried to argue with knuckleheads. It went nowhere fast. The NFL has recently signed a licensed cable a decade of TV rights for $10.3 billion. It's an 80% increase over the previous deal. Most entertainment business, content business, going that way. Trajectories down. Oh, I'm not watching. Oh, yeah? Well, they just got paid more than ever. 80% increase. Tell me the football business is hurt. Tell me it's really going to matter. Tell me kneeling killed it off. They're making more money than ever. So the most valuable sports teams, let's do the top 10. I don't know if you're going to even know some of these are. You should. Notice how good the NFL business is. Number 10 is Bayern Munich. Value $4.2 billion. 9, the New York Giants. They suck. Value $4.3 billion. The New England Patriots, number 8, value $4.4 billion. The price paid in 1994 for the New England Patriots was $170 million. Los Angeles Lakers, value $4.6 billion. Price paid $20 million in 1979. How's that for a pretty good return? Not a bad business. Number 6, the Golden State Warriors, $4.7 billion. That is an amazing story. That was one of the most nondescript franchises. Probably the most nondescript franchise you could think of. Now worth $4.7 billion. Real Madrid, soccer, 4.75. Number 4, Barcelona, soccer, 4.76. Number 3 on the list, they suck. The New York Knicks, $5 billion. Number 2 is the New York Yankees, valued at $5.25 billion. The price paid for the New York Yankees in 1973 was $8 million. I think it's still owned by the family, I believe the Steinbrenner family. Now valued at $5.25 billion. Price paid in 1989 for your Dallas Cowboys was $150 million. It is now the world's most valuable sports franchise with a 5-year change in valuation of more than 43%. That's a pretty good run. It's now valued at almost $6 billion. 6. Got it? He paid $150. It's now worth 6. Well, but Jeff, that's just on paper. You don't have the cash until you sell it. He's not going to sell it. The only time that that's sold is if and when the old man dies, and I would be shocked if he takes it out of the family, but who knows a long time from now. $6 billion. But Jeff, they don't win. I know. They haven't sniffed the championship in a long, long time, yet their value has increased 43%. And the media rights to the NFL, all the platforms, all that stuff, increased in value by 80%. I'm not talking about the number of platforms used. I'm not talking about the different ways that you watch. I'm just talking about the total package paid to them, which, by the way, I would tell you the players are underpaid. I can make a really nerdy argument. Tom Brady did it this past weekend. He talked about how stupid the players were, that they're underpaid. They're grossly underpaid. They really are. For the amount of money coming in, they should make a lot more. They have a silly deal. Their cut of the media deal is not what it should be. They are grossly underpaid. I'm not saying that as a moral judgment. I'm saying in terms of the money that is now generated. I mean, you increase the business by 80%, you should get a bigger cut of the action. You should be making a lot more than they are. Any one of you would make the same argument. But the media rights have gone up 80%. The next deal, which I think kicks in next year, I believe. So we can laugh at the old man all we want. We can talk about his plastic face. We can talk about him losing it. We can talk about him becoming Al Davis. We can talk about him being out of touch. But that is a pretty remarkable run. $150 million investment, of which I think at the time, remember Texas Stadium? Awful stadium. I hated it. Played there several times. Hard to see, hot as hell. I believe he bought the lease of Texas Stadium when he originally bought the Cowboys, or took it over or whatever, then turned around. Of course, this is a stupid question. Is it even there? Huh. I assume it is in some capacity. Is it? Either way, he goes to the suburbs. Stupid taxpayers do what? Build him pay more than 50 or 60% for a new stadium, of which it starts producing a lot of revenue, has skybox sales that have skyrocketed. He turns that thing into a money-making machine. I mean, there's even morons that stand in one section of the stadium and just stand for $30 a beer or something like that. So $150 million to $6 billion. And what's amazing is the most valuable franchise in the world by far hasn't had a championship in more than 25 years. John McClellan is the co-founder and creator of ATX Hot Sauce, now in all 50 states and several retail outlets as well. So what we're going to do today is we're going to let this social media rock star chef walk us through 4 different sauces, and then I'll taste and we'll tell everyone why they should buy. You can give the science behind these, and then I'll make the simple recommendation. Go to atxhotsauce.com. All right,
I don't think anybody's heard the website.
Yeah, I know.
About you, Jeff, but it is atxhotsauce.com.
I'll say
I got that one right.
45 times, atxhotsauce.com. So let's do it.
I brought 4 flavors here, and we're going to test your palate today.
Okay.
And I only brought 4 because I didn't think you could handle 5 or 6.
Yes,
probably a smart move. Yeah. And so the first one we're going to try here is called Beet Heat. And just like the name implies, it has beets in it. It's made with red Fresno peppers. Red Fresnos are red peppers that are they're hotter than a jalapeno and a little bit less than a serrano. So not super hot here, just a lot of good, really good flavor. So we're going to start with this one, and then we're going to move up the chain.
Okay. I've had the Beet Heat, but okay.
Yeah, we're going to try it though.
It goes well with a cab. All right, Jeff's savoring Beet Heat.
I'll even do it with you, so that should be all right. Now remember, it is hot sauce.
Yeah. Oh, it is. It's hot sauce. Trust me, man.
Wait, is that one hot to you?
No. A little.
Yeah. The great thing with the fermentation process is you get a bunch of the flavor right up front.
Yeah.
And then the heat comes, but then it dissipates pretty quickly, especially with the red Fresnos. You know, this is not a very spicy one, but it is a very tasty one. Goes on great on sandwiches.
Beet Heat.
Beet Heat. B-E-E-T. Heat.
All right. Go to atxhotsauce.com.
That's right.
This NFL anti-vax thing among players, it's turned laughable. It really has. Kirk Cousins is a tool. Does he have a right to be anti-vax? Absolutely. The Minnesota Vikings, of which employ Kirk Cousins, a quarterback, huge contract. I think he did his contract a couple years ago. According to the Associated Press, the Vikings have only 70% of their roster with at least 1 dose of the coronavirus vaccine. That is the worst vaccination rate among all teams in the league. Well, of course, if you employ these people, you're probably not going to be too happy about this because of what can happen. Leading the way is Kirk Cousins, who over the weekend, this rocket scientist decided to tell the world that he's fine sitting behind plexiglass. Now, it turns out that his backup, his name is Nate Stanley, and Kellen Mond, all sidelined this week after testing positive for COVID. So, only 1 quarterback was available for practice. Okay? And he's vaccinated, so he's their quarterback right now because Kirk Cousins has decided that he's anti-vax and he's not going to change. And he's well within his right, but I bet you the guy has had x-rays. I'll bet you the guy's had anesthesia. I'll bet you the guy has had surgeries off and on. So this is how absurd this thing is getting. Do they have the right? Absolutely, they have the right. But imagine, first of all, it's a little tough to take. I've already made the argument about how hypocritical it is for someone who's into sports science to then turn around and say they're not into science. For someone who's fine with x-rays and anesthesia is not okay with a COVID vaccine. Then we find out he's just losing his advertisers. One of which is, get ready for it, a hospital. Good job. Go ahead, keep your position. Give it up. The owner of the franchise, needless to say, is not too happy about it either. He's gone public with his problems. Here's head coach Mike Zimmer. There are quite a few guys that are just against it. I'm not going to be able to change their minds, so it's like half the country, I guess. Cousins says he's at peace with his decision to not get vaccinated. He blamed his exposure to COVID because the quarterback, like think of a football facility as an office, and these are small businesses, by the way. He blamed his exposure on the fact that the quarterback's meeting room is too small. Oh, okay. That's the problem here. He suggested to go to the building that he will surround himself and sit behind plexiglass. He asked why, when asked why he wouldn't simply get vaccinated instead of going through such great lengths to avoid getting his shot. He says it's a very private health matter for him. So now they got to expand the office for him, and they need to put plexiglass in for him. That's what he wants to do. So that's not the real kicker to all this. So since 2017, this is a famous NFL player. He's got a huge contract. Some would say, myself included, he is grossly overpaid. The return on that investment for him has not been so great, but he struck when he was hot. So now get this. He has been the spokesperson for the Holland Hospital Sports Science Program since 2017. Well, guess what the hospital has decided to do? What should they do? You can't very well sell the hospital and your sports science department when your lead salesperson doesn't like the science. They fired him. As the trusted healthcare leader along the lake shore, we are committed to providing accurate, timely health information and guidance based on guidelines from the CDC and medical experts. While we acknowledge that each person is entitled to their own viewpoints, those who speak on our behalf must support messages that align with the hospital's position on matters of vital importance to individual and community health. You know where this is going, right? For this reason, Holland Hospital will discontinue using Kirk Cousins as our spokesperson for now. They had to do that. It's the same argument with, on top of the medical part of a nurse or a hospital employee saying, I don't want to get the vax, it is the message sent. You can't very well sell the benefits of their science, of the hospital business, if the salesperson, that's what you are when you're a spokesperson, you are a de facto salesperson. The salesperson doesn't believe in the science. We are proud of our association with Kirk. He embodies many values we respect and share as part of our work culture. However, we must be certain that our communication about COVID vaccinations are consistent and unequivocal. In other words, he's a tool. Lost one job. You going to keep it up, buddy? Is it worth giving up your career? Then do it. Why are you even waiting? Why do you want to build plexiglass? Just say, when COVID is over and you guys can tell me that I can be an employee without having the vaccine, you let me know. Till then, I quit and I'm giving up the payment. I'm not taking another check from the Minnesota Vikings. I'm out. Just quit, man. Quit. What does the head coach do? What do you do? I don't know how you can plan the season, which is starting pretty soon, with your $60 million a year quarterback who's not vaccinated and not going to get vaccinated. And I think you just say, I think you might have to fire him too. Or put him on some list and say, check back with us when it's all over. You're so passionate, just check back with us when it's over. From now on, so-and-so is our quarterback. You got a vaccine, right? Let me see the bandage. Okay, good. You're in. You're playing. You knucklehead Cousins. How's this going to go over to Cousins' house? You've now about to lose 2 jobs. You lost the hospital job, and now you might very well lose the football job. All of this for what reason? Even though you've been under anesthesia and had x-rays and probably a plate in your shoulder and everything else of sports science, you've taken advantage of sports science and believed in the sports science until now. Quit. When they tell you, you know what, quarterback, we're not going to build plexiglass just so you can show up in the building and sit there. So this place isn't for you. This job is not for you. So move on.
From the Hot Pie Media Studios in Austin, Texas, it's The Jeff Ward Show. Listen at jeffwardshow.com.